Great.
Hello ladies and gents, welcome to the video. This is Mantalk Productions. This is the first Sim Soaring Club gliding task that I've done where I can actually see the other multiplayer aircraft around me. This is MSFS 2020. Everything seemed to kind of pull together and go right in this flight, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. One thing that's not going to go very well is the tow plane in front of me in a few seconds is going to take a nosedive, so I'm going to have to do a bit of a sketchy engine launch. Yeah, so I realize he's failing, I see his wings dip down, and I immediately cut the tow and begin moving to get the motor engaged, because I don't have a lot of altitude here to play with. Yeah, there's the warning. Clear the warning, and get the electric propeller started. So the AS33 Me from Got Friends. Beautiful, beautiful aircraft. I've been really enjoying it, and this is my first serious attempt at using it on a sim soaring event. Here is another view, by the way, guys, you'll see me using throughout the flight, where I've overlaid everyone's track into soaring lab. Yeah. This is a great tool to be able to visualize everyone's positions in the track. You see me motoring on up. I see this peak ahead of me, and I think, oh, I'll turn and I'll get the updraft on this peak that will help me to continue to climb. And then as I come round, I look to my left and I see everyone else is stuck over on the ridge, which you can just see from that top view here. So everyone is going up back and forwards along this ridge, using the updraft to position themselves. The wind is from the southeast. In the top right-hand corner of the Soaring Lab window, you can actually see where true north is, so you can kind of guesstimate where the wind angle is from that. And then in the sim view, you can actually see the wind direction on the navigation display. So here I am making turns, and I know that the start is going to open soon, so I'm positioning myself just behind a guy called Axel, who is a fantastic flyer. And I'm basically going to be trying to stick to his backside all the flight to learn from him. You can see me doing, scissor of eights. Now I'm descending and to lose altitude, because the start gate has a maximum altitude of 4,000 feet. So I need to be under 4,000 in order to get through that correctly. And you can see in a few seconds here, I go through the gate, and it should make a ping noise on the ND display, and me and Axel, you can see him off to the right there, SSC Axel, we get through with like 200 feet to spare, yeah, 185 feet or whatever that is inside the box. So we are now through the start gate. That guy way off in the distance, Zimmer, etc., I don't know who he is. So Axel and I are through the start gate pretty much straight off the bat, which is great. That whole process kind of reminds me of sailing. I used to do dinghy sailing on a small single man dinghy in the Belfast Loch years ago, and it's the same sort of deal. You've got an imaginary line in the sky or on the sea, and you essentially just count down to a specific time, and then you make sure that your craft or glider is at the very perfect point to cross that start line as soon as that start gate comes open, so that you are as far forward in the race as possible from the start line. So what I'm going to be doing now, as you can see, I'm just focusing forwards. I can see this ridge running along to the south here that I'm coming up towards, and the wind is off my left-hand side. As you can see, it's roughly 4 knots off the left. Here's a quick view as well of everyone else coming through the start gate. You can see everyone is fairly spread out, even at the beginning of the race. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's not. But the one thing you will find on a gliding task like this with a big group is that someone in the very back can make it all the way forwards to first place by the end of the race. And also on the flip side, someone at the very front can make one mistake and they can immediately be like, place 10 or place 15. It's kind of like Mario Kart in that sense. You get hit by that shell and you immediately, fly back by 8 places in the race. So here I am, and I'm coming down towards this ridge line. And again, this is where learning by watching what other people are doing is so crucial, to help, become a better glider pilot. This guy Axel in front of me, he's bombing it to this ridge. He's not actually caring too much about how much altitude he loses. What he cares about is his speed. And if he can get to this ridge sooner rather than later, then he's crossed that area of dead air quicker, and he's then in a position where he's further forward and he's gaining that updraft from this ridge sooner. So I think one of the big lessons for me in this whole thing was essentially that you have to be able to tell when what is your highest priority. Is it altitude right now, or is it speed? And being able to make that decision intelligently and wisely is what really makes a huge difference, because at certain other points in this race, you'll see when the guy in front of me, whether it's Axel or someone else, they immediately put their nose down and they immediately start bombing it, and getting up to that top speed. And in seeing that, you can tell, right, that person can see that there's no reason why they should hang around in the dead air between these two peaks. They need to get to the next peak as quickly as possible, obviously by at the same time losing as little altitude as possible. That's another big thing. But the glide ratio has to be that the priority is more about getting there as quickly as possible than not. Now, when you have, let's say you're going down a valley, when you have a target at the end of the valley which is higher than you are, and you'll see this later on in this race, one of the waypoints is at a higher elevation, and it means that it forces me and Axel and everyone else to start climbing as aggressively as we can. And of course, that's where your priority completely flips upside down, where you say, okay, you don't care about the speed, it's all about climbing potential. And as far as I've learned so far in gliding, the best gliding speed, the best climbing speed is when the glider is down at a low speed with the flaps down, above the stall speed, obviously. We'll get to that later. But you want to be flying as slow as possible in lifting air, because the faster you go, the sooner you would get out of that lift, if that makes sense. If you're flying nice and slowly in that lift, then you gain lift from that air for longer, because you're in it for a longer period of time, right? So I'm coming along this cliffside, as you can see. The wind is coming up from my left, and it's rushing up this cliff face, and it's giving me a good boost. As you can see on my variometer, my little red needle is up to 8, I think I can see. So yeah, a really good stiff breeze coming up that cliff face has been helpful. And we're closing in on our first waypoint. And so at this stage in the race, you can see, or not, I keep calling it a race, but it's actually more like, it's just called a task. And it's just for fun. Everyone's super casual. We enjoy it. We all hang out together and just chat and help one another learn how to do things better. And at the same time, yes, there are stats and there are, first place, second place, third place, etc. But at the same time, it's not hard and fast. We're not making a big deal about it. So it's a super casual, friendly bunch of people who just, welcome you straight away and you get stuck in. No drama, no issues. It's pretty chill. It's lovely. So in this particular stage, you can see I'm now beginning to slightly increase my speed, and you can see that I still need to climb, because you can see the waypoint ahead of me is actually kind of up on this hill. I still need to climb, but at the same time, I don't need to be climbing as slowly as possible. I can see Axel in front of me is actually... he's climbing, but he's doing a kind of in-between speed and climb potential. So it's kind of like a it's not the most aggressive climb that we could be doing, but it's somewhere in between the priority of top speed versus climb. And all this random stuff that I'm blabbering on about right now is what was all going through my mind as I saw how he was flying in front of me, and I realized what he was doing and why, and it was super cool to kind of learn from someone else in that respect. So I'm just going to fast forward in the video now. You'll see, yeah, look at that view. That's a beautiful view. And you can see we're going at quite a speed. Yeah, we're now going at quite a good speed along this ridge line. So I'm just going to fast forward to the next section of dead air, which I think there's something else to talk about here. Okay, so you can see us run through our first waypoint here. You can see the turn, and Axel and I are both trying to benefit just a little bit off of that ridge on the way back, and then we jut out across dead air, across this valley by ourselves. And so now the question is, well, where do we go? If you have a look at that blue line, that's the direct bearing from waypoint 1 to waypoint 2. So somehow we can't navigate up that ridge directly because the wind is coming from our right, and that would put us in the downdraft of that ridge. And I was a bit tentative here at this point, where you can see that the wind is directly coming at me over this ridge that I'm coming towards. So I would expect to be in downdraft, and as soon as you clear that ridge, there's an immediate updraft that happens because you get into that updraft air on the other side of the ridge, and we had like a little bit of a yo-yo effect happen, which was great, the both of us. And then we were faced with a really, really beautiful little valley run. This tiny, kind of tight little valley. Yeah, you can see now I've transitioned to the other view here to speed up. The both of us just had this lovely tight run up this valley. The updraft was really, really good here. And I'm zooming out the camera here so you can see the context of all of us together. So Axel and I are both pretty much in the lead, but that's about to change actually. You can see I've just fast forwarded a bit further up this ridge. We're getting to a point in the task where altitude is all of a sudden going to be the most important thing rather than being fast. And so Axel and I are both looking at this ridge just ahead of us here, you can see, and start to realize, oh yeah, okay, we're going to have to stop, and we're going to have to do some spirals, as you see us do. And you can immediately see there were people higher up on the ridge than we were who were able to make it over that pass. And all of a sudden, we've lost the lead. We're back in, I don't know what place, but all of a sudden, our position in the race no longer is of any meaning, at least to me, because you saw we were barreling up that valley, as you saw, and I wasn't really paying attention to just how high I needed to be to make it over that ridge. Axel had to do a bit of a turn, I had to do a turn, and that lost us the front position. And I thought that was a pretty bad move on my part, but it's not as bad as the next move that's going to happen. You can see us just continuing down, using the updraft of this ridge line here to help us. Various people doing little yo-yo maneuvers as you hit updrafts, and then there's this big valley we have to cross, and it's the next climb that I think gets me in the end. But here you can see all the decisions people are making. You know, how high can I get up on the shoulder of this mountain range to maintain as much altitude as possible, but not fly so slow that I'm left in the dust and everyone is miles out in front of me. So it's always a balance. I managed to make it over that shelf. There's a double ridge here, and Axel and I jog over to the upwind ridge, still flying parallel with it for a little bit, and then we come down. There's another ridge here that we have to cross. Now I jog out to the left slightly of Axel. I'm always favoring being closer to the ground. And in my brain, I thought, well, if I'm closer to the edge of the cliff, I should get better lift. But that doesn't actually make sense. So that's another thing I've learned. The lift isn't always necessarily better closer into the actual terrain. And it actually makes sense to keep a bit of distance between you and the terrain at all times, which you will come to see. Now, I've paused this part of the video because you can see out on my left, there's 3 or 4 or maybe 5 people that have significantly more altitude on me than I do, and Axel, and they're higher up on the shoulder of that ridge. Me and Axel to the right are flying a more direct line towards our next waypoint, and this is again a little bit further forward. We're coming up to where the waypoint is. You can see on my ND display, it's to my left, my kind of 10 o'clock. And this is where I get caught. This is where everything comes unstuck, and I pay for my mistakes. So Axel, you can see, is a little bit further ahead, and he's a little bit higher. Now, he manages to make it through, but I make the decision to make a turn and to do some rotations and to try and gain a little bit extra altitude to be able to make it over this ridge. Now, that was the right call, but there's an issue that you're about to just see here in a few seconds. As I come through this turn, it should have been a far tighter turn. Oh, shoot. No, 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 no.
Sounds like someone's had a system crash.
Oh, ladies.
Just save it.
Oh, that was close.
Yeah, I've seen you.
Now, at this point, I want to just pause it because if I had turned immediately to the right just here, I probably would have saved it.
Right
Crashed.
below.
I definitely squeezed that.
Crashed.
Oh.
Oh, actually, that might be me. Oh, that's me. That's me. No. Okay. Oh, lads, I'm done.
I've seen you go down.
Oh, right.
R.I.P.
Oh, how do I... If I hit the yaw key, I'm going to spam all the way across the world, so I think...
You press Yankee on your
No, you won't. Just the Y key.
So I press Y, and then what do I press?
F4.
F4. But you're only allowed to
It's R.
press it for 0.7 seconds.
Whoa, there we go, okay.
How did Axel make this height on the waypoint? I tried to do the same.
How about a
I
clip?
was as high as him, but I didn't make
Oh
it.
shit, I forgot the bloody waypoint.
It all happened to us.
So when you use
I'm concentrating, sorry.
When you use the yaw on a track, what does that do? Does that just disqualify it?
You mean the slew? Yeah, it will
Slew.
count as a land out.
Okay. So there you go. I was super gutted to bottom out there and hit the ground, but thankfully I was able to hit the slew key, get back in the race. The track obviously won't really mean much, but I was still enjoying myself. This is the thing. You do this for fun. It's a community. It's a group event. You do this with other folk, and you're just having fun. So I thought there's still a lot that I could be learning here. So I got back in the race, and of course I'm not really paying any attention to where I am in the order. not that there's a big deal about that anyway. So just coming down this valley, trying to benefit from the ridge lift there, and then making a turn out into dead air to cross. And I make a decision here. I take a right-hand turn, and I think this ridge over to my right, just along this ridge here, I just pointed at, looks good, but I didn't actually get that much of lift off of that one, sadly. But so I turned back into the left, came back in towards this ridge here, and all of a sudden I saw Axel in front of me again. I thought, oh, I guess I wasn't, too much further behind. And then this waypoint, this beautiful waypoint, has this bowl in the mountains that you could do a nice tight turn in. See the tightness of this turn here? This is probably the tightness of the turn that I should have been doing earlier on, but then of course the issue is you can't really afford to do a turn as tight as that at such a low airspeed. That's where you're going to get into an easy stall situation with such a tight angle of bank, because you need greater lift in a tight turn like that to maintain altitude. So, and then I thought I'd just add this bit of footage in because again it was just such a lovely soaring, clip where the scenery is beautiful. You're enjoying it. You're getting lift off of these mountains. And then I fast forward, and this particular section here offered some really beautiful views and a good bit of lift, I think I remember. But then we come to another section where there's a couple of learning points here that I thought I would include. This one here. As I'm crossing this dead air across this area, Axel goes to the left immediately, and I see that and I follow him, and I realize that rather than follow that red person up there, FS, what Axel's doing is he's choosing to stay lower and stay in the valley and profit off of the sustained lift. Over a longer period of time, you get more lift rather than just go straight. I don't think I explained that terribly well, but yeah, now of course we're in this area where we're getting an absolute ton of lift off of these really, really steep valley walls, and then of course Axel's behind me. I think this is the first time when I've gotten in front of him, so I thought, you know what, I'll be bold, I'll go do my own thing. I see these valleys here that look like there's some updraft. I get some really good updraft off them, and then I come over here and I've got this one again, go along this ridge, get a good pump up from that, and then again, this is another interesting point. Again, Axel's in front of me, he's just pulled out ahead, and he pops up. Now, we're looking at this ridge ahead of us, as you can now just see this ridge ahead, and I'm thinking, that's quite high, and I see immediately Axel raising up. Now, I know that he's not rising up in updraft. He's essentially pulling up and bleeding his airspeed and giving himself altitude. He's translating his potential energy from his airspeed back into altitude to be able to get his aircraft up to a level where he can then benefit from that updraft from off this peak. So sometimes, and this was a good teaching lesson for me in the sense that if there's a ridge ahead of you that is just a little bit too high and you think, oh, I'm going to have to circle and circle and circle to get up there. But then if you look at your speedometer and you realize, actually, I've got, 20, 30 knots to spare here. I could translate that into a few more 100 feet of altitude before I get to this ridge. And now that I get to this ridge with those extra couple of 100 feet, then look at that variometer, right up to beyond 10. That's probably the highest I've ever seen it. Got a massive bump in updraft air there to get safely over that ridge, which only a few moments ago was looking quite challenging, really. But again, being just behind Axel, he gave me the inspiration immediately there to go, actually, you've got some airspeed that you've retained, turn that back into altitude to stay in the game, because that altitude is what's going to save you right there, not specifically your airspeed. So again, it's this whole balance of altitude on the one hand and airspeed on the other, and those two things, how do they translate to each other? and how much altitude versus airspeed do you have at any given time that you can expend for a gain that's going to keep you ahead. And that balance is such a fun mental game to play with as you're flying a route like this with friends. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Here's me on the landing, and I came in pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I have arrived. Oh, hello.
Well then,
You
Phew.
landed?
Yep.
Always a bad pun.
That was fun. I enjoyed that. So that's it from me. I just want to say thank you so much to the Sim Soaring Club for putting these flights on
A few
and for
speaking
creating
public
an
investments,
atmosphere
yeah,
like this where you can just sign up, you can go for a flight, you can learn a ton, have fun, and just chill with like-minded glider pilots. So see you again.